Hello, Illunauts. I've dressed for the occasion. I am gonna talk about War and Peace for real. For real. Yes, I'm gonna talk about War and Peace. I decided to dress for the occasion because since the content of this video is gonna be very shitty, I thought maybe if I enhance the form by, like indulging in certain formalisms, maybe the other thing will pass overlooked, as so many do, from politics to the royalty of YouTube. So yeah, maybe if at some point I sound redundant or I say a sentence that makes no sense, or I repeat myself or I give you a wrong piece of information, then you can just look at my shirt and be like, oh, okay, but at least he's dressed well. Uh, I had to ask a friend for this. I don't have any clothes that would allow me to enter any of the ball parties in this novel. And maybe that could be a good way to start with this. As I said, this is going to be a very erratic video. Not as erratic as the previous one, because the previous one was intentionally so, but erratic enough. And that is that it's probably the first book I've ever read in which the beginning and the end are the worst things about it. I think my favorite part of the book, my favorite chunk of the book is the middle. The beginning and the end. The end is like, this long philosophical reflection that has already been going on for the whole book, and you don't need it also at the end. And the beginning is just 200 pages of ball parties of like, you say balls? I think, yeah, like just high society celebrations in which, like it's just pure exposition for 200 pages of the kind of circles in which I don't feel welcome as a reader. I just don't enjoy them. I know this is gonna sound weird. It's just come to many of you booktubers and book readers or watchers or whatever who love Jane Austen and things like that. But that is the kind of thing that for me it's always been hard to. I don't know what to do with my hair. I don't know what to do with my hair at all. I'm trying to grow it. I used to have long hair. It used to come all the way down to my ribs. And I'm trying to do something like that again, but the middle point is not my favorite thing. So I don't like that. I was War and Peace. Okay, let's look for the war part, and then 200 pages of opulence and exposition of characters that at the beginning are not so interesting. The only character that at the beginning I cared for was Prince Andrei. Before starting, I'm also gonna say one thing. I have a few notes here, no script, but just so that I don't forget, because I'm trying to take it more seriously on this video. As I said in the previous one, you don't pay me enough to take it seriously for real, but just be cohesive. I'm not gonna read any passage, because I'm gonna make a very long video eventually in which I read my favorite passages, which I have annotated at the end of the book. I have annotated the page numbers of my favorite passages of War and Peace, except for those that I read. There's a couple of passages that I loved that I didn't have a pen with me in the moment. And when I don't have a pen with me, what I do is I bite my finger and I crush my nail against the page to leave a mark so that I can afterwards go back and find the page because of that mark. But it didn't work with two passages. One of them was at the end of the first volume, I think. It was Pierre looking at a comet, and another one was the death of this general that has like a massive hallucination of the universe and shit. I didn't find those two, but I mean, like, as you saw, I have a lot. I have for 5 hours of reading if I wanted, and I'll read my favorites of those in a separate video. I'll probably also make a separate video about Tolstoy view of history. Because believe it or not, I'm doing a read along of Hegel and it's very relevant. I could, if I was ambitious enough, if I cared enough for, YouTube success, I could make a video making a really clear parallel between Hegel and Tolstoy. Because Tolstoy I don't think he read Hegel, but he definitely knew about Hegel and was highly influenced by Hegel's view of history. And it's all throughout the book. So yeah, that's definitely something that I could do as well, but I don't think many of you are gonna care about either of those videos. So first I'll give you, like the more face-to-face, I'm here, one with the people. Let's talk about the book as one of many who got lost throughout, who thought of DNF in the book at some point, who lost the plot, who forgot is this character dead or alive, who then, you know, like suddenly started crying and loved the book, and then hated it again because Tolstoy is so pedantic, and then, you know, over and over and over until the end of the book, and then finally at the end I arrived, and this is what you were waiting for, my opinion on the book, and be like, this is one of the best novels I've ever read. Not best, sorry. That might not be the best way to go about this. This is not even the best Tolstoy novel I've ever read. Anna Karenina is a better novel, in my opinion. If you don't agree with me and you have read both, I encourage you to check the passage in which Lise gives birth and her consequent... Should I give spoilers here? I'm gonna spoil. This channel is not for... I'm not trying to give you a summary so that you can talk about the book without having read it. I'm kind of making this video assuming that either you don't care about the potential spoilers about a novel made on 100 years ago, or that you have already read the novel. So that being said, compare the part in War and Peace where Lise dies after giving birth with the part in Anna Karenina where Levin's wife, I believe her name was Kitty, but I'm not sure, where she is giving birth. Two birth scenes, you know, so there is a certain similarity between both of them. See which one stands out by far, and without even having a death involved in one of them. I think for me, clearly, Anna Karenina is a better book than War and Peace. However, War and Peace is a much more evolving and involving experience. Like, you feel completely surrounded by it. It's much more ambitious. It has a lot more character and personality, just like me. So of course I'm gonna like it more. And it has a lot of philosophy, not great philosophy, neither shallow. I feel like scholars or people who criticizes Tolstoy's view of history for being shallow or anything, but it's not really. His thoughts are very well put out and very well expressed, and also he's very charismatic in the way he presents them. Ultimately he's wrong, and he's also ignorant of many, like, his arguments are flawed as well. Like, in order to be wrong, his argument has to be flawed. So it's a bit, you know, like, he's not as good a philosopher as he is a writer. So those parts might come across as weaker. I find it incredibly interesting. I love those parts because I love philosophy, and seeing someone who, as a novelist, as a writer, might be one of the very few writers that I look up to, and I am like, wow, you know, I don't know if I'll ever be able to write that well, right? Which to me doesn't happen very often for two reasons. I am actually a really good writer in my own language, and I am also very arrogant. So it's hard for me to both encounter a writer that I consider to be much better than me, so much better that it looks like hard to reach, and also that I am willing to admit that. With Tolstoy it happens, but then as a philosopher, kind of like the guy, you know, he's limping a little bit, and that's definitely something that I understand can annoy some people, especially if you're not interested in philosophy, if you are like more invested in the characters. But yeah, Tolstoy, one of the best novels I've ever read, one of my favorite novels. I think it's number 3. There's only two other novels that I can think of that I liked more. I should at some point make my favorite books ever, so that you know. I feel like, you know, that's my favorite video on everyone's channel, so why not? Why not do that? Who knows? So yeah, I mean, what else? Yeah, Tolstoy was actually not as ambitious in starting this book as he was with Anna Karenina, I feel like, because you know, he was, as every Russian aristocratic and as every aristocratic really ever, hunting, which is what they do. They hunt, they get drunk, and they cheat on their wives. When he broke his arm, and that led him to a period of recovery in which he decided to write a novel about the sublimation as youth, aristocratic sublimation of the youths in Russia in 1825, against the new emperor, the coronation of King Nikolai, or Nicholas, or however you call him, the first. because they wanted, to put some reformations on, to kind of like make Russia reflect the liberal spirit of Europe at that time. And it was a very small event that he wanted to present on his book. What happened is that, as often happens with the best books, the he got possessed by the story, by what he wanted to write, and what he actually had to write, what he actually had in him, were two different things, and he just couldn't he just couldn't limit himself to his smaller project, his lesser project, and ended up writing War and Peace, which not only does not talk about that event, that sublimation or rebellion, but also ends 5 years shy of the actual rebellion or sublimation, or however you want to call it. It's, I believe, War and Peace ends on 1820, and sublimation happened in 1825. So that's interesting. That is yet another example of like how writers don't have full autonomy over what they write. They only, it's very much, in some ways, it's like you're just pressing buttons like a monkey in front of a writing machine, and until suddenly like words start to make sense, and then you just follow that trace. So yeah, that's what happened. Should I start talking a little bit more about the book and less about the context? Because it's already 11 minutes and I'm hungry, it's late. It's the same day. I am also probably gonna post this on the same day. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I change my clothes and I post videos in different days, so that like, I'm sort of like give you different, how you say, portioning the videos, so that there is throughout the week and there's not big gaps like you have had for the last week. There's gonna be bigger and bigger gaps from now on, because my life is about to become even more eventful than it already was. But yeah, apart from the balls and the exposition at the beginning of the book, there's also a lot of characters. The book is not hard. Not even the philosophical parts are hard. Nothing Tolstoy ever wrote was hard. But there is a lot of characters, a lot of plot lines to follow. Some of the main characters that stand out to me are, well, let's talk about the families, right? You have Besukov, which is, like this Count Besukov, which dies very early, and he's probably the richest character, and then his fortune goes to his illegitimate son, Pierre, which is probably the most important character. I didn't care much about Pierre for most of the book. Not most of the book, but a good chunk of it. I thought he was very naive, and he just kind of irritated me, and I was like, come on, grow up. And also a little bit like too good. Like annoyingly good. But yeah, Pierre is he's yeah, exactly, like too honest for his own good, too good for his own good as well, a bit too naive, emotional as well, a little bit, not too much. Rostov is a bit more than that, but yeah, basically Pierre gets that fortune, and then he becomes more important. He's still kind of like on the side. He doesn't fit the ball parties, like the aristocratic circles. Doesn't fit that kind of context. I can empathize with him on that, at least. Another character that is very much interconnected with him, pretty much is Andrei Bolkonsky, which is from the family Bolkonsky. In the family Bolkonsky, you have Andrei and Maria, and Count Bolkonsky, or something like that, the father. The father is a angry old widow that is a bit of a pain in the ass, and Maria is the opposite. She's like probably the nicest person in the book, and she's just taking care of him all the time, despite she just like getting her life is not the best. She's just like always taking care of others, and no one takes care of her, and you feel sorry for her throughout. And Andrei is a cynic. Is the opposite of Pierre. Basically, they are like, in this sense, and only in this sense, they are the most important characters in the book. Andrei, Prince Andrei, and Pierre Bolkonsky, or Count Bolkonsky. I don't know I think they start calling him Count as well, or Prince Bolkonsky. Either way, these two characters, you know, one represents sort of like belief, certain values, certain pursuits, and also kind of certain kind of like juvenile instability and desire and all of that. And Andrei is more stable, more cynical, more like a serious atheist. Um, and they although they do have certain confrontations in terms of discursive confrontations, they are very good friends. And throughout the book, you kind of follow both of them, and they are both also interconnected by another character, which is Natasha, which is again like probably the most important character in terms of her evolution throughout the book, which is from the family of the Rostovs, which has Count Rostov, which is another rich aristocrat, although he's kind of broke because he's not very good at managing money. And then you have Natasha, the daughter, and you have also Nikolai Rostov, which is like a young guy who's also very emotional and obsessed with glory and idealizes the emperor. And all of these characters are find each other in, you know, like the beginning and the end of the Napoleonic Wars in Russia. So you also get that on the book, that you have not just Napoleon as a character as well, but their expectations, their ideas. First, idealization of Napoleon as sort of like this, you know, this almost mythic figure. And as Napoleon starts coming and attacking Russia after having conquered Vienna and so on and so forth, their ideas, and they basically begin to be disillusioned, both about that and about war, those that had any kind of dreams about war. In terms of Pierre, which is ends up being my favorite character, although for most of the book, not for most of the book, but for a lot of the book, Andrei was my favorite character. He has a bunch of points of inflection, of change. And that is one of them is given, which is probably the moment in which he becomes my favorite character, is when he has to challenge another character because he's humiliating him, because he seems to be, how do I say this so euphemistically, fucking his wife. His wife, Lena Kuragin, sister of Anatol Kuragin from the family of the Kuragins, which are kind of like the evil people on the book, in like just like the bad family, you know, like troublemakers, ambitious, vain, and selfish, and in no way do they care about others. So she's basically seems to be flirting with another guy, and in a party in which he kind of like is put in this position in which he has to challenge this other guy, and this other guy accepts the challenge, and they get into a duel, and I don't know if he ends up killing the guy, because I don't think it's clear, but we're given that impression for a moment. And Pierre, when he thinks that he kills this man, he enters into a crisis in which you know, he also divorces, or at least thinks about divorcing Helene, and then he's met by a Masonic priest from the Freemasons, and begins like a religious experience. Of course, they are only doing this, the Masons are only preaching this to him in order to take his money, because he's very rich. And yeah, I mean, the thing goes on. The whole story goes on. It's long. I don't know where to stop. As I said in the previous video, you don't pay me enough to give you summaries. I don't really, like, this is one big question of me, like, when I approach this kind of videos in BookTube, I don't really know. Should I be giving summaries? Should I just be giving opinions? Should I be doing, like, you know, blog kind of videos where I'm like, yeah, this is how I felt when I was reading chapter 3. I don't really know what kind of videos should I be making, because at the moment, for the time being, I don't have any sort of like moral critique to give to booktubers who approach booktube as a business model, and make really nice editing, and therefore get a lot of subscribers and everything. I have my own profession, which I love, and I'm also a very resourceful person, so I don't need to come to you in order to do any form of marketing, which leads me to this indecision about how to approach these videos in a way that I'm satisfied with the final product, in terms of like the video actually making sense and giving you enough information, but also it doesn't take me so much effort that I end up feeling like I'm actually working when I don't need to. I don't need to, because again, I have I have a lot of things that I do outside of the screen, a lot more than 99% of human beings. So I I am maybe going for through a bit of a um, I'm questioning my status as a booktuber, not in terms of living or anything like that, just in terms of how do I want to continue to approach this, what kind of videos do I want to make, and all of that. More of that in a separate video probably, but yeah, I'm basically gonna stop there. I'm not gonna keep giving you more further summaries about how the book continues. It's very like this, every single story feels whole, partially because of that exposition at the beginning that for me feels way too long, 200 pages. But that thanks to that, if you stick through it, you arrive at this point of everything feeling so real that the dramatic action and all the different changes in the book really you get really a grip of like how every single character feels, and start to make predictions, and even the reflections feel very pertinent. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm forgetting anything. I mean, yeah, one thing that did annoy me a little bit is that, like, I mean, I know that Napoleon is this bankrupt figure in the making of history, but I feel like it was for me hard to. I've heard other booktubers they love, for example, Alana Estelle, which makes amazing videos. If you wanna see a proper review of War and Peace, you should check her video. Um, I heard her and other people say that like that Tolstoy makes a very real picture of like Napoleon as a human, you know, with his flaws and his highs and his lows, you know, not just a legend, but a more three-dimensional person. I didn't feel that way. I feel like he was just trying to ridiculize Napoleon. I even felt like that Tolstoy's embrace of determinism, of historical determinism, just one way of taking any merit that Napoleon could claim for his previous conquests by saying that, you know, like, historical events are not driven by individuals or geniuses or anything like that, but by the all-encompassing variables of history that are unstoppable and moved by, you know, some divine entity or whatever. I feel that what he was trying to do there is to take protagonism out of Napoleon, which he clearly didn't like. And I understand, for as much as I know about Napoleon, I know that he was not a likable figure. I haven't read any biography of him or anything like that, but I I did flirt with Carlyle for a while, so that gave me some context on the figure. Yeah, so that was one thing I didn't like about the book. Of course, the repetition again on Tolstoy's philosophy, which is not fully successful. Is also something that I found a bit annoying. Every book that Tolstoy has made trying to preach has been a fail for me, especially Resurrection. And yeah, I mean, I think that's all. As I said, I'll probably make a separate video talking a little bit about historical determinism, Tolstoy, Hegel, Isaiah Berlin, since I read The Hedgehog and the Fox, although it's not a book that I would like highly recommend or anything like that. It's an okay essay. And yeah. Let's leave it there. Yeah, what do you think? War and Peace, highly recommended, loved it, and stay tuned for more and all of those things that cool booktubers say. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you, booktube.